Botrix has correctly joined the channel. 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 Botrix has correctly joined the channel.
Ooh, hello, adventurers! Helps if I unmute myself. Welcome to our Glorious Ashes of Creation September development update. We hope that everyone has been well and safe as per usual. I am Margaret Crone, your Director of Communications here at Intrepid Studios. And with me, as always, is the one, the only Stephen Sharif, our Creative Director, who is wearing like a very nice sash tonight. You got like a mage look going.
This is my blanket. It's kind of cold. We're approaching October here. It's getting a little chilly.
In California.
It
Really?
is. It really is. Yes. It dips into the 60s. That's too cold for Californians.
San Diego is like 70 and perfect all the time.
I don't know. I mean, that's the problem with being in California is that you're accustomed to the 70s always. So when it starts to dip into the 60s or 50s, that's just like too cold.
My husband and I, one time, we were in like one of those like malls that are outdoor, and everyone was like wearing jackets and everything, and we were wearing like shorts and tank tops. We're like, is there something that we don't know? Like, is there going to be some kind of cold front? It was in San Diego in the fall, but yeah, it was funny. Anyways, welcome to our live stream. We hope that you guys are buckled in. It's going to be a long one, but we also need to stay on time because we have a big leadership meeting that's happening at 1 p.m. Pacific. So we will be cutting off at that time frame no matter what. But as you can see below, we have a whole slew of amazing things to go over. We are going to talk about some reminders, summoner preview. I know that a lot of you guys are excited about that. Harbinger system design, sports fishing sneak peek, and community feedback. We know there's been some hot topics that people have wanted to talk about. We're going to talk about them here. And a little live Q&A if we can get to that. So hopefully we have time for that. I'll try to keep people on track. But of course, we do want to do our YouTube spotlight for our subscriber. Don't forget that if you subscribe to us on YouTube and you make sure that you're subscribed publicly, because there's like two different things, it's very weird, and you leave a comment on our full development update, you may get selected. And this one today is from Dad Hipster. I think it's supposed to be, it's Leet Speak, but they have noted, I think I'll only play Ashes for the fishing if they do it right. I'm excited for that. So, Stephen, you got no pressure.
To be fair, we have often said on the team working on this that this is a game in and of itself. I mean, that is ultimately what MMOs are, right? A bunch of games pushed into one. And the fishing game that we're building, I think, is definitely going to be compelling. If you were only interested in fishing, that this loop kind of has everything you need to progress within Ashes. So excited to showcase this today. I think a lot of people are going to be pleasantly surprised knowing that this is coming up literally in, less than 2 months now for November. But it's going to be exciting. Huge revamp.
And we'll be showing progress. So obviously this time we'll be talking more about the designs, and then in the future ones, you may see more stuff. So like we'll continue to show progression as we move forward. But let me get through the reminders really quickly so we can get to the good stuff. We have some upcoming release information for you. For those of you who have been joining us on PTR, we did start PTR testing this week again for our next update, which is version 0.16. So those of you who have been helping us, we super duper appreciate it. Thank you so much. There are a bunch of bug fixes that are coming in with that. This Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific, We will be having a settlement war. We got a lot of RSVPs for that. So thank you. We hope that you all show up. We are hoping that we can maybe get through 2 during that time frame, and we'll get a lot of data for our team based on some of the changes that we've made. We also have Summoner coming to PTR on September 30th. We know folks are really excited about that. I do want to put a caveat here that this is not going to be part of the 0.16 update, but we are going to be doing some early testing, and not all of the things are perfect. So just keep in mind, even between our QA and our development branches, because we have different environments, there's some differences there. So just keeping in mind that. And like I noted before, we do have a version 16 coming up in early October. We'll let you guys know more about that as that's coming online. But to set expectations, it is a lot of bug fixing and things of that sort. If you are checking out our PTR, you've got a little teaser of what's to come in 0.16.
Yes, and to be clear, we previously had announced that the Summoner playtesting would be done on PTR October 7th, but we're moving that date up so that we can get earlier feedback. Obviously, as Margaret said, that means that, some of the visuals there are not going to be totally complete. There's going to be lots of bugs, balance issues that we're going to be addressing. But this allows us to get you guys hands-on quicker so that we can address the bigger issues before its release.
Yeah. And then we also have our dev discussion. Archetype vibe check is still up. If you haven't gotten your chance to leave feedback over there, please do. If you already did, thank you so much. We will be doing a report on that, but we wanted to grab all of that. Our next topic is going to be on the Summoner. What aspect of the Summoner are you most looking forward to? So it'll be a little teaser into the Summoner. And we will have a whole slew of questions for you on that front, as well as we'll talk a little bit about that in the Summoner preview that we're about to go into here. But before we do that, we do have just a reminder about the creator program. We
Welcome,
will be
everyone.
pausing applications soon. So if you haven't already applied, make sure that you apply. We're currently in the application phase. We will be closing that while we get through the final applications. We have been reviewing those. We got through all of the ones that were previously submitted. So thank you so much. But as some late bloomers come in and trickle in, we will be going through those as well. Like we said before, we will be replying to every single person, so long as you gave us the correct contact information, and we will be letting you know whether you make it into the program or not. Again, that is, we're aiming towards November timeline for that, but it kind of depends on where we are in development. Once we open that floodgate, it is a lot. So we just want to make sure that we're doing it at the right timeline for us.
Can I just say that I loved that graphic that you had there with all of the archetypes and that kind of circular modal there?
I like that as
cool.
it too. Mike did such a good job with that one. I was like, I really like this one. Yeah, it's a good one.
Mike did a great job with this, but I love the iconography that Natalie, put together with these archetypes. I think
the
the
icons.
The color composition looks good. Yeah, the icons, absolutely.
It looks great on that.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to have one, like we need to have an event where it uses that, and then you have one of each archetype stand on it and it glows like that. It'd be sick.
How cool is it? Oh, absolutely, 100%. How cool is it to know that in a very short period of time we will have all archetypes? 8. Oh my gosh. That's a long time coming.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah. I know for you especially, Steven, since this has been your little baby from fruition. Exciting.
Exactly.
Last but not least, we have our career page stuff. We are hiring. If you know somebody who would fulfill one of these roles, we are looking for these roles to fill. So please send them our way. But if you also know someone who's talented and they fit not one of these roles, please tell them to apply. There is a general application as well on our site. And with that, I think we will switch over to our Summoner preview. But before we play that video, I want Steven to be able to give any prefaces on that front. But this will give you a little insight into kind of like the overview of the archetype and some of the key goodness that comes with it.
Are we talking about we're going to show the Summoner video?
Yeah.
Right now? Oh, okay. Yes. Let me give you some prefacing. So, obviously, this is the last of the archetypes to be stood up from a functional standpoint. Obviously, this is not, the level 50 version of our archetypes. This is up to level 25. This is going to be its first iteration in a public playtest perspective. That means there's going to be bugs. It means it's a work in progress. It means that balance is going to be off. Compositionally with other archetypes, you can expect that it's going to take some time for us to refine that. So, when people say, man, this archetype is busted, remember that we told you it's going to be a little busted to start. That's how these things work when you're in an active development, in an active alpha. Things that come out that are fresh features, that are new content, is going to be busted. Expect that. Relay that information to your fellow testers. However, it's a lot of fun, and it is a very different archetype because it utilizes primarily a pet as your primary combatant. So this is important. I think a lot of us know what summoners entail and what we were trying to achieve from a feeling, from a class fantasy perspective with this archetype. And I think the team has done a phenomenal job in hitting that mark on its initial debut. So very excited for you guys to get your hands on it and break all the things so that we can go back and fix all the things. But yeah, enjoy this early teaser, what you will soon be experiencing on the PTR come September 30th.
And don't come at me. I tried to be less robot, okay? I'm not an AI, okay? Everyone always says my VO is AI. Enjoy. Hello, glorious adventurer. Today we are taking our first look at the Summoner archetype in Ashes of Creation. Keep in mind, Alpha 2 is in an early testing phase, and everything you see here is subject to change. The Summoner is all about commanding powerful spirit companions to fight by your side. The Guardian is your stalwart defender, specializing in holding threats, soaking up damage, and disrupting enemy positions. Its key ability is Stomp, which deals AoE damage and generates high threat on everything it hits. The Hunter is your striker, dishing out damage at both range and melee. Its key ability, Eviscerate, is a brutal single target strike that hits even harder if you position yourself behind the target. And finally, the Mystic, your magical support vessel. It can heal, shield, and provide AoE damage from range. Its key ability, Recreate, heals an ally and can even become a group heal under special conditions. The Summoner uses a special resource called Essence. Essence is generated passively through your weapon combos and from your vessel's basic attacks. You'll spend Essence to command your vessel to unleash powerful abilities. The Summoner's kit combines damage over time, area damage, and resource management. Start by applying Spirit Shred, a single target damage over time spell that also generates Essence. Follow it up with Mortal Blast, a powerful AoE that spreads Spirit Shred to nearby enemies for maximum efficiency. Use Hex to place a ticking debuff on enemies. Every action that shortens its timer brings you closer to a big damage detonation that resets its cooldown. When you need to sustain yourself, spend Essence on Extract Vessel to transfer health from your active vessel to you, or Siphon Vessel to pull mana instead, keeping you in the fight longer without needing to stop and rest. Whether you prefer tanking with the Guardian, striking from the shadows with the Hunter, or supporting your team with the Mystic, the Summoner offers a flexible, commanding playstyle. Explore this archetype and many more on Vera now. Don't forget to /bug any issues you encounter and leave the team your feedback and thoughts over at forums.ashesofcreation.com. Seems like people
It's
liked it so far. I saw
happening.
someone say Rogue's dead, Summoner's new.
Oh no, I'm waiting for the entire server now to roll Summoner.
Oh yeah, every time we do an update with something, everyone's playing it. So it'll be, let's see, 8 summoners in one group. But there are different play styles, so you could have one being the tank, kind of, and try it. I don't know how successful it'll be, but we'll see. Obviously, we are going to have a dev discussion up for Summoner. Let us know which vessel stood out the most to you. Which one did you like the most? Did the Summoner's gameplay look fun or confusing to follow? Was it clear what the vessels were doing during combat? And did any ability or moment make you want to try the Summoner? As well as, based on what you saw, would you play this archetype? So kind of let us know what you're thinking, what your thoughts are. And obviously, those of you on PTR are going to get your hands on this. Do note PTR is under visual NDA, so you will not be able to share any visuals of that, but you can talk about your experience, so that is okay.
And I do want to comment, remember that this is our base archetype system. So long-term intent and what we are continuing to develop against is that you can combine your base archetypes together to create one of 64 classes. In the summoner's case, this is going to be very influential. Some of those class combinations will determine the visual appearance of your summon. So, those summons will conform to thematically relevant class fantasies of those class names. So right now, what you're seeing with these summon types is essentially, these pets that reflect a more neutral, kind of unformed, purely essence originating, spirits. And then as you define that class further through the combination, you will get more class fantasy specific summon pets.
Exciting. And I know y'all will have questions about it, so just feel free to send them our way. We'll get through them eventually. And with that, we're going to switch over to our next segment, which is a big one. This is going to be the one that we're going to stick around for quite a bit here. It's a pretty large system that we're going to be talking about. So we're going to talk about the Harbinger system design, which is going to be our first foray into the big story arcs. So we do want to bring in a whole slew of folks with us. So we're going to go to a quick break screen and bring them on, and we will see you all shortly. Quite a few faces here, some of which you may have seen or heard before. I believe we've definitely had Bill on before, so welcome back, Bill. We also have Scott, which I think you've been on a couple of them before as well, but maybe not visually. You've been
not on camera, yeah.
No, yeah. So you want to say hi to folks, let people know what you do again?
Hello, everybody. I'm a narrative designer on the team.
And Brian, we've had you join us before, a lot of Siege goodness, but if you want to talk a little bit about who you are again, just so folks get a refresher. Oh, you're muted for us. You were working in the test, but not now.
Ruh-roh.
Is your mic not down or something?
Nope. Good heard you.
Nope. There it is. Got it.
Oh man, the classic. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm a senior designer on the team. Bounce around to help on different stuff. Worked on a lot of combat stuff in the past and Siege, but I've been helping with the narrative side of things, getting this event stood up.
And we have a new face, Terrence. Terrence, if you don't mind telling people what your role is here and what you do and what that means here. And I'm going to ask you a couple extra questions since you're kind of a new face.
Sure. Not a problem. Hello, everybody. My title is lead content designer, and basically I'm kind of a wrangler, and I try to empower and help the two other sub-leads. That would be the lead narrative designer, which is Scott, and then the lead world designer, which is Jeremy, who's not on stream. Basically, I just try to communicate goals across a whole bunch of teams and try to get our quality up to the level that it needs to be.
Love that. Tell us a little bit about your history in game development for those people who don't know what you've
Sure.
done.
Yeah, sure. Well, if people can't tell on camera, I'm an old person, so I've been in the games industry for about over 25 years now. I started on like PlanetSide 1, so probably that was before some of you may have been born. I don't know. I moved on to EverQuest, so that's an old school MMO. I did some time there, and then I've just been doing a lot of various MMO developments since then. The last thing that I worked on was actually at Amazon. I was kind of a marketing and publishing producer for Throne and Liberty.
Terrence was my lead when I was a game designer, when I first became my first game design role. So it's kind of cool to see him join, and probably interesting for you to see me from my little fledgling associate designer position.
I remember you joining us, as a associate designer on Free Realms. That was a really fun project. I hope it was fun for you. It was definitely fun for me. That was
it was great.
That was great.
Tell us what your favorite MMO experience is.
Favorite MMO experience. Okay. One that stands out to me that I really enjoyed was actually when I first started working on EverQuest, and I made like a mini raid, and I did a zone design, and I had the chance to let the players sort of jump into in a playtest for the first time, like kind of an alpha, sort of a curated private list alpha, and that was really fun just because I got to see people just explore the zone, fight the mobs, do the content, and then I think the first person that died, I was able to put like a tombstone in the zone with their name on it, essentially. So I really kind of enjoyed that.
I love that.
Yeah, that was a very fun experience, just to be able to, you spend so much time and effort and you're working with a whole bunch of people and you're able to make something, and then you get to see people jump into it for the first time is always
the best to see you guys playing the game and testing it out and seeing all the things and seeing how you interact with stuff. It is the best feeling as someone who creates stuff. Well, I know we have a lot of stuff to talk about today, so I'm going to actually toss it back to you, but not in regards to your personal experience, but talking about the Harbinger system and like what our goal is here with the system.
Yeah, well, we're super excited to work on this system and bring it to fruition. The Harbinger story arc is essentially our first fully playable version of a story arc, and really is a key step in bringing a truly dynamic world to you folks. One where you folks just aren't adventurers, but you folks are literally guardians of the realms. These are massive, and I do mean massive, world scale invasion events where players, you succeed or you fail, and then if you fail, then there's consequences to that, and the corruption will spread, and we can get more into that. But first of all, what are Harbingers? And so for that, I'll toss that over to Scott.
Yeah, thanks, Terrence. Sound like a newscaster, like I'm going to do a Harbinger report. The Harbinger is invading everybody.
Today's Harbinger
live on the ground from Harbinger Ground Zero.
Live from the Riverlands.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I really hope people do. We on the community side, we have talked about like a newscast stream, which would be really fun. Maybe someday post launch, but yeah.
That would be cool.
So yeah, the Harbingers they're like big spacefaring vessels. I mean, they're not like sci-fi ships. They look like big chunks of rock, which is they look really great. They're tied to they're how the ancients got to Vera in the first place, like back during the original apocalypse. So
they're actually pieces of the ancients' homeworlds that destructed, right, when the celestial battle occurred.
Yep. So they've brought with them pieces of this world that really is the main way to visit and know this world. And they mark the arrival of corruption on Vera, and they are the point of the invasion thread. That's where the invasion starts. You'll be able to go inside these, as I sort of alluded to, with a pocket dungeon at first, and these, eventually will expand into full scale dungeons that, are themed well and all the great stuff. And so yeah, where these land, this is where corruption spreads from, as I mentioned, and that's going to have a very profound impact on the environment and the gameplay in that area, and everything from the mobs that are there to the resources you can gather.
Yeah, and just to elaborate a little bit more on this, I mean, obviously, as we first roll out this story arc, like all content and all systems that we initially roll out, it's going to need to be further fleshed out, further polished, additional content added. But as Terrence was saying, and as Scott is kind of reciting, the story behind this stuff, this story arc is going to be the first real opportunity to see global changes get affected by player decisions, activity, responses, to how this arc develops. And there are many stages that Brian's going to be getting into a little bit with how the arc develops, but players are going to be asked to do different objectives at each of these stages, and depending on the success fail of those objectives will determine how the story arc progresses and what future stages and objectives are going to be required in order to push it back. And these story arcs collect data from world state conditions, right? So like as you're doing normal things in the world, like collecting experience from killing mobs or gathering resources or crafting things or leveling up, settlements, whatever, a corruption ticker is kind of happening in that background. And that corruption ticker is unique, obviously, to this particular story arc and event. It might feed other things as we develop further story arcs. And we've talked about this, back since 2021, I think, was the first story arc that we did in Carfin. I think it was 2022. Was the first story arc that we showed. I think it was the Blood Still Due in Carfin. And there are a lot of partially developed story arcs that actually exist in the game that you can't see. They're in the background. They're not activated. We keep them disabled. And we've done some data structure changes, but this is going to be November, the first real big imprint kind of story arc that actually has large structures that exist within the world as well. Those harbingers that Scott was talking about, those literal pieces of the world that the ancients once existed on, that was destroyed through their battle with the celestial gods, now have found their way to this haven of essence and the Dawnfire's kind of creation of these civilizations. They are perverting that. They are a lesion upon that. They are spreading corruption and inviting the void to this realm through these conduits that are the harbingers. And players are expected to engage with that. So Brian, talk to us a little bit about what engagement looks like. What do these events actually entail?
Before we get into that, should we talk about who the ancients are?
Oh, I also wanted to chime in just on something. Like, one of the other things that this is really doing for us, we talked in a previous live stream about, all of the work that we've been putting into improving our narrative tools and improving, like Stephen mentioned a little bit, the data back end, and this is really an opportunity for us to exercise all of those things and make sure that we're building the right things that we need to tell these grand story arcs, for the near future, as well as 5-10 years down the road. We want to make sure that we have a solid foundation to build from, and this is really a big test of that.
Yeah, and those tools will
Absolutely.
affect all the content that we're making moving forward, which is pretty exciting.
And just to expand a little bit further on that, because that's a really good point, Bill. Obviously in development for games like this, massive, super complex, interconnected, systems driven MMOs like what we're building with Ashes, there are tools that you can sometimes build which perhaps need to change throughout development, that didn't get the job done that you wanted it to, or you iterated differently on a piece of content or an intended system. And as a result, you go back and you refine those tools, you change those tools, you update those tools. Sometimes you have to even refactor those tools. And as it relates to our narrative tooling, Scott and Terrence, and having onboarded now Brian to that team and some other designers, we have gone through a very significant effort over the course of, I don't know, what was it, the last 6 months or so? 5 or 6 months,
yeah,
to basically rebuild our narrative core services systems. And this is going to be the first debut of that effort on a very grand scale. So, those of you who are talking about the current testing environment and the questing that you want to see in that, and the story arc systems and the content there. This is going to be our initial debut of those systems, developing this more expansive content loop for players to engage with. And obviously, we're going to be looking to see how players engage with that, what feedback they have when they're engaging with it, how we can continue to refine it. It's not going to be perfect in November, but it is going to be a step towards that direction of us achieving our content goals. And this system is going to be what gets us there.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we want the world to be alive with these dynamic things happening everywhere that players are contributing to and making, great impacts on that affect not just, their own personal story, but the story of the whole server.
Yeah, and some of those events, obviously outside of Harbinger stuff, are even related to nodes. So this goes into all of that as well. So for those of you who may not have realized that, well, Scott, if you want to talk about who the ancients are, and then we'll toss it back over to Brian to go into the event system and the flow of that.
Yeah, so the ancients were the gods' first creation, like a very, very long time ago, and when they made them, they were they were a little bit overtuned, I guess, and then when they became corrupted, they turned against their creators, and that led to the destruction of their world and their banishment to the void. And so yeah, they have returned on these harbingers, and that led to the apocalypse before. And then this portends greater conflicts to come down the line. They have a big objective. They have a nefarious plan. They want revenge for the destruction of their homeworld, and they also have another higher order plot as well, for the source of this corruption that initially swayed them down this path, in times before. Go ahead, Stephen.
I was just going to say, just to add to that a little bit, also, like, the ancients are the primary antagonist in our story, right? Like, full stop. They are the primary antagonist. And, when we started development, obviously we talked about, elements of the narrative not getting revealed until later. Those things I think are very true when it relates to the ancients. You haven't seen very much of the ancients and the testing up until November. And now you're going to see the ancients kind of sweep over Vera like a plague to a degree, especially if the players don't respond. So, the backstory of the ancients is very, very colorful. And that's a story I think that's very interesting to tell, because it alludes to something that is much more grand on the scale of kind of cosmic affairs rather than the Varen or the Sanctus affairs. And those are always fun because they let you kind of dig into, that backstory, that lore, the kind of grand scheme of, why we're here. It touches the big, epistemological questions from the Avatar's perspective, that can be really cool. And we don't want to give all that up at front, right? You're gonna discover that, as you move throughout the game, and it's gonna draw you in and draw you closer because it'll help to characterize your position in the world and why you're here. But ultimately, I do want to say that the ancients aren't the only adversary you will face in these environments. There is the concept of the void, and the void can be home to many different types of creatures that may not even be original to your reality. And that's something that I think it gives us a lot of, obviously, free reign from an NPC design perspective, from an encounter perspective. We can shake things up with that element, right? And a few of those will be present in November as well. So we're excited to showcase not just the ancients and their story and how they relate to you, but also the kind of grander, more cosmological, questions.
Yes, we bring forth the cosmic horror.
Yes.
It's definitely more of the horror gore side of things than we've done before.
It's far more M-rated. That is for sure, and you'll see that in some of the concept art here.
Our social media managers was like, I don't know if we can share some of these images.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and a core component of the ancients is that they don't have access to this essence that they used to have when they were before they became corrupted, and so one of the main sources that they can get essence from are the living creatures of Vera. So you'll see evidence of them taking that essence, and it's not a pretty or easy to look at process.
The ancients already have a fan club. People are saying the harbingers did nothing wrong.
Oh my God.
They're
Here we
making a
go.
hashtag.
This information is now off of X and into Twitch.
That's why we're a PvP
just
game.
misunderstood.
Defeat evil in all of its forms.
All right, well, walk us through, Brian, the event and how it will work. And I know we have a flow chart to kind of go along with this long event process. And obviously this flow chart is not all of the details of it, but it kind of gives you a short version of it. And by short, this is pretty hefty flow chart. But I'll hand it off to you.
Sure. Yeah. This is definitely a simplified version of the flow chart. There's a lot of little details that we won't be able to get into today. But yeah, this has been a big technical lift. I'm happy to represent the technical side here, but there's a ton of other people involved in this. Bucky, Jared, all the engineers, Jason, Neil, all the artists. Like, this is a huge effort across the team. So yeah, it's excited to see this moving, and it'll be exciting to share this whenever we're done with it. So yeah, how does the event start? So like Stephen was mentioning, there's a local corruption threshold that needs to be met before the event kicks off. So what can increase the local corruption? Players killing other players in the area, settlement buildings constructed, settlement level ups, bosses killed in the area, new crafts completed, wars or sieges initiated, and we're also going to have corrupted elites that are trying to reach a portal inside the Harbinger. And if you don't stop them, that will also increase local corruption. All right, once that threshold has been met, the event starts. Something else to mention about local corruption is it's not just for starting the event. This is going to be constantly ticking up it's going to be constantly ticking up always. And whenever thresholds are met, then the event will expand if it's already run. And there will be more corruption added to the overall area. All right, so phase 1, the Ancient Commander arrives. The Ancient Commander will come through their Void Gate, and you'll have a limited time window to kill them and shut down the event before the corruption has spread at all. The Ancient Commander is going to be extremely buffed up in this phase, so if you want to actually succeed here, it's going to need to be a server-wide effort. All the sweaties are probably going to have to work together instead of kill each other. It's going to be extremely difficult. But yeah, let's say you guys fail. What happens next? Then
and just to be clear, real quick, Brian, there. So, once this phase, the incursion begins, this area becomes lawless, right? This is now an open PVX encounter design, right? Where you're going to have some group of players that are interested in the incentive and the economic reward loop that comes with defeating the boss and pushing back the corruption and the reward benefits from that. And you're going to have other players who want to persist the lawless territory so that they can continue to gank players, or that they can continue to harvest corrupted resources, which can be wild cards within the economy for regular resources. So there's a push and pull that will exist between the players interested in keeping the current paradigm versus changing it. And both of those are obviously incentivized through some economic reward structure.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, right? Because when I was talking about all the server coming together to try to handle it in phase 1, maybe not likely because all the incentives to keep it going, like you said.
Yes.
So whenever the you guys failed phase 1, then we enter an incursion phase. So the corruption expands to a new area and an incursion starts. There will be a forward void gate that appears, and there will be void channelers that are holding the gate open. Kind of similar to phase 1, you'll have a limited time window to kill the void channelers to close that forward gate and push back the corruption in that area. If you're successful in doing that, then it'll check, has all the corruption been pushed back? And if you are successful, then you'll get a chance to slay the boss. But let's say you fail at killing the void channelers in this phase, because similar to phase 1, they're going to be buffed up. They're going to be difficult to kill in this incursion phase. Whenever the players fail at pushing back an incursion, then a foothold will be established in that area, and it'll be much more difficult to repel. So how do you repel a foothold? Go ahead, Stephen.
Now, just real quick, another point there, Brian, is that, obviously we haven't talked about where these harbingers are located. I think we have in the past, but I don't know if we mentioned it here. These harbingers are located in 3 of the current biomes, essentially. They're located in the Sand Squall Desert, they're located in the June Dark, and they're also located in the Turquoise Sea. So when you talked early about kind of that corruption ticker that's, reaching that threshold, those three locations are running independently from one another. And oftentimes what you'll find is the progression through this event system, this story arc, will either be at a similar pace within those zones or be at different paces. So players who are looking to capitalize on responding to some of these events or expansions, or the Void Gate incursion versus the Foothold, they're going to have to contend with multiple expansions that might be occurring at once. And they're going to have to pick and choose where they devote their resources towards as the story arc continues to unfold.
I think, Stephen, also it's important to mention that that's happening at each individual Harbinger as well. Each individual Harbinger can have multiple fronts,
Correct.
right? So you might have the corruption extending out to the west and a foothold established while another incursion is happening to the east.
That's right. Yeah, and how many how many kind of expansion, rings are capable at each of these Harbingers, Brian?
There's 3 potential routes they can go, and they can expand up to 4 times per route.
Got it. So each one of these, as the ticker hits that threshold, we're rolling on a random chance generator essentially for each of these Harbingers. How many of those progression loops off of the Harbinger will progress, right? So imagine you see a Harbinger in the middle, and then you kind of see 3 tendrils that come off of that one Harbinger, and it's segmented into 4 portions that it can advance each time, right? And you might see all 3 pop at once, or you could see 1 pop at once, right? And that kind of adds a variability of randomness to how players can react and will react based off of that eventuality.
Also worth mentioning, maybe in while this is going on, there are also a series of like actual quests that are more designed for like a narrative experience that operates alongside of this PVX experience that's going on, that explains the particular ancient that you're up against at this Harbinger, what their powers are, what their history was, during the apocalypse and things like that. So there are like time limited quests happening while this is going on to engage into to get deeper into the narratives.
People are wondering like how long these events will run. Are they planned for weeks, months, hours?
So it depends on the stage. Brian, you want to talk to us a little bit about each of the stages and their timelines?
Yeah, and this is all approximate. This will come down to playtesting and tuning, making sure this all feels right. But correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, but this is supposed to be a big event, lots of time commitment. So we're talking on the scale overall, like if you're super sweaty, ultra coordinated with the whole server, maybe you can wrap it up in a couple days. If it gets out of control, you might be there all month.
Yeah, and it depends obviously on the phase as well. Like for example, during the Void Gate incursion, you're going to essentially have hours to respond to this event before it potentially progresses into a foothold. So, as you see the warning, come out that, corruption is spreading, the Void Gate has appeared, move out of this particular little area. That's going to be the warning. Get out of this area. It's going to become lawless. If you don't want to be there, it's going to become a corrupted kind of zone. The incursion is about to begin. And then once that incursion begins, there's going to be a set of objectives that players are going to be expected to complete in order to push back that incursion and make it a lawful zone again.
So pumped.
But if they fail to do so within the hours allotted, then it will become a foothold. And a foothold is an entirely separate type of interaction. You want to talk to us a little bit, Brian, about the foothold?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like you were mentioning, phase 1, maybe a couple hours, phase 2, maybe a couple hours, but foothold, we're talking a couple days to complete these objectives.
Yes.
It's much more involved. So yeah, the objectives are, first out, you want to build a coalition outpost. This is a little base that you can build. And it will help you push back the corruption. We're going to have guards there. We're going to have a respawn point there. And you'll also be able to craft Heartwood infusion crates. These infusion crates help you with the next objective, which is stabilize the rootway lesions. These lesions will be spread throughout the corrupted area, and you'll be able to take your Heartwood infusion crates to them to create a healing explosion to seal the lesion. And whenever all the lesions are sealed, then the void channelers will be vulnerable to attack again. and then you'll be able to slay the void channelers.
And these
And
outposts will also have like vendors, NPC guards, and a unique crafting table to create the hardwood infusion crates as well.
Let's talk about the coalition outpost a little bit. So this is a location that exists within the incursion / now foothold location, right? And each foothold space or area can construct a coalition outpost. And what construction means is that players are expected to bring construction crates from corresponding node locations in order to successfully build those coalition outposts. The reason why players must build those coalition outposts, as you just described, Brian, is because in order to seal the rootway lesions, which are these kind of eruption geyser-esque looking essence points where, you know, the rootways of Vera have essentially been infested almost with this corruption. And obviously the intent of the ancients and the denizens of the void are to accumulate this essence. Why? Because essence doesn't flow in the void, right? And if they run out of that essence, they become kind of husks. That's the only way they really die. So they're part of their purpose in, you know, not just perverting Vera, but is also to obtain essence, because that's the fuel for their corruption. That's how they pervert things. That's how they interact with the magic that allows them this power. And as corruption spreads, it creates these lesions all throughout that area. And players are expected to craft these heartwood infusion crates, right, at the coalition outpost. That's the only location that you can craft these particular crates. So you must construct the outpost first, kind of like a forward operating base within the corruption area. And then from there, you can deliver these crates to the legions to close up these geysers and then allow you to progress to the killing NPC boss phase, which eventually then pushes back the foothold. Now, talking about competing incentives, we are a PBX game. If anybody is disillusioned with that fact, it is better to come to terms with that right now. That is what this game's identity includes, which means that there are going to be PvP objectives and there are going to be PvE objectives. And balancing between those two competing aspects is how you succeed in Ashes of Creation. So when you're taking these crates that have this, you know, this high amount of essence from the forward operating base, from these coalition outposts, there is an incentive for a player to gank you and kill you in this lawless area and unpack those crates and steal the essence inside, because it's very profitable. Of the crates that you can kill and take, these crates are extremely profitable. I mean, they're literally pure essence. So you're going to have the players who are interested in all the reward profile that comes with successfully contributing to these legions and closing them and killing the bosses and pushing back the foothold. That is super rewarding. That's the PvE component of it. And then you're going to have the players who are really interested in stopping those players, because they can take the shit that they can take the crates that they've crafted and the goods that they've used to progress in that PvE encounter, and they can introduce that PvP element in order to add that risk and steal those things. That is the competing avenue between the two player groups.
Yeah, with the whole area being lawless, there's a whole bunch of ways that you can take someone else's rewards for yourself. But yeah, whenever all the rootway lesions are stabilized, then the next objective is to slay the void channelers. And unlike the incursion phase, they're going to be in a weakened state because you've messed up the rootway lesions and they're disrupted from that. And whenever you're successful at slaying all the void channelers, then we'll do a check, have you push back all the corruption, and if not, you're going to have to push back all the corruption in the Harbinger's area before you can proceed. But if it's all been pushed back, then the next phase is to challenge the Ancient Commander at the Harbinger. These will be unique encounters. NPCs hard at work giving us 3 different variants of these Ancient Commanders. And they're going to all have unique rewards. And yeah, whenever you defeat the Ancient Commander, then the event will end. It'll go on some sort of cooldown whenever that cooldown has passed, then it will then be gated by the local corruption threshold again. That's that's basically the whole loop.
Very exciting.
Ooh. And you know, the thing that they're all working towards is the reward part of it. So, right? Can we talk a little bit about what that is?
Welcome stream.
Yes.
Thank you all for hanging out.
So there are a number of different reward profiles. Obviously, completing the event carries with it contribution towards the completion of that event that players are rewarded for. That means closing the rootway lesions, and it means constructing the forward operating base or the coalition outpost. It means defeating the bosses and destroying the void gate. Those are all activities that contribute towards participants who successfully do those things receiving a reward. And in addition, the reward table drop profile that comes off of those channelers, off of that the world boss at the end of the path, or the commander who might be, at the void gate, they have very lucrative types of drops, including some specific corruption type drops, which we won't get into here. There's still some design that's going into that the economy and system teams will be working towards. And those are obviously, going to be high level. This whole zone, this whole story arc is intended for a more end game type of leveling experience. So, as the zone changes to a, void gate incursion or to a foothold, the monsters in the area get leveled up, right? They get more, they get a buff to them that makes them corrupted and makes them, the natural fauna and flora that exist there, in addition to adding ancients that are, all throughout the zones as well, which are a whole different type of mob that has its own, difficulty level. So these are very difficult encounters that are expected for players who participate with them.
And just as a note, for the initial version, nearby settlement states will not be directly affected.
Correct.
But the future iterations, that is the plan for us to expand to those as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, settlements will be heavily impacted because the corruption will spread right up to the walls, basically, but it won't go inside the nodes for now.
Yep.
But in the future, it will.
Or the settlements.
Anything else you guys want to cover? I know we just did a lot. I'm sure that there's going to be some folks who are going to analyze all of this and have lots of thoughts. And obviously, once you guys get your chance to check it out in PDR, we'll definitely let you know when it's available. But for now, we're just kind of giving you a little insight into design, the system, why they're creating it, and what it's going to do, and how it will impact you guys as testers as well. Anything else you want to touch base on? Because we still got more for this live stream.
Oh my gosh, I know.
All right.
That's it for me. We're just excited to get this out in front of folks.
All right. Well, thank you, Terrence, Brian, and Scott. We're going to let them go. So we're going to go to a quick break screen, and then we're going to get into a little bit more relaxed environment and go into some sports fishing action before we get into more intense topics. So we'll see you all in a moment. Woo, welcome back. We're going to talk about sports fishing. This is a little sneak peek, maybe not as in-depth as what we just did with the Harbinger. system, but we will cover kind of some information that will hopefully answer some questions folks have been wondering about. And with us is a new face. We have Blair. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
You are a new face. Can you?
First caller.
First time
You're kind
caller.
of cutting out for us a little bit, so I think you're peeking yourself. Can you kind of walk people through what your role is in here and like what you do at Intrepid Studios?
Sure. I am the lead combat designer, and that encompasses a whole lot. There's player combat, there's NPC combat, there's vehicle combat, and I kind of sit on top of all of those teams and then also help out all over the place just because I've been doing this forever and have all kinds of insight into ways to get things done.
Perfect segue. Talk us through kind of like your history in game development, so folks have like an insight into that if they don't know who you are and what you've done.
Sure. So I've been doing this for 25 years now. This is my 5th major MMO. Started on EverQuest 1, went over to Star Wars Galaxies, built DC Universe Online. Crowfall was my most recent title, and then now I'm here on Ashes.
Awesome. Can you talk?
Very excited to have Blair. Blair has been, Terrence has as well. Obviously, you guys met Terrence. We're meeting a lot of new faces on this stream, but Blair has been, Blair has rolled up the sleeves, gotten dirty and everything possible, and has been a huge lift.
Yes, very grateful to have Blair and Terrence on board. They've taken a lot of weight off my shoulders for sure.
Bill's like, thank you. I'm gonna toss you a different question than I gave to Terrence, but what are you most looking forward to in Ashes of Creation?
Actually, the stuff that I'm working on, which is the actual naval stuff, which is
that you're just
no, trust me, he was chomping at the bits when I first sent him barely a GDD. He was like, "Yes, I'm ready."
All right, well then let's get into it. Blair, walk us through what is.
We've talked about MMOs just being an excuse for phishing systems.
Exactly. And this one, exciting enough, this is the first game I've worked on with an extensive sea naval system. Galaxies had a space system, but you weren't really fishing from ships in space because that's just not going to happen, right?
Well, I think you would probably die if you did that.
Like throw it through the force field. But the naval system is really exciting because again, once you do this for so long, it's like, yeah, I've built that before, I built that before, I built that before. So always keeping you interested is the new stuff that you've never worked on before. So for me, a sea navy is actually something really new and super cool. So I'm super jazzed to work on it. I'm super jazzed to work in games in general. But this is a new thing that I haven't built before, so super excited. So Ashes has a fishing system right now, and it's AFK fishing. And we're going to keep that.
That's never been our long-term plan.
But we're going to keep that portion of it, and sports fishing is going to be adjacent to it. They're both going to tree off of the fishing skill line. And if you're not going to play for a while, you got to go make a sandwich, you can go AFK fishing on a river, right? It's there. If you're down for some more active gameplay, then you're going to go sport fishing. Also, we've heard different flavors of sport dash fishing. And in fact, the data is already named. I've already done a consistency pass. It is sport fishing.
Oh, I might have messed up. Apologies if the overlay does not say the right thing.
Yeah, it is sport fishing. And
okay, gotcha.
Let's see, what are we showing? Oh, we're showing the new ship right now. That's the Navy is part of this, and the fishing is another part of this, because you have to have ships to get out to the fishing nodes. And there are going to be fishing nodes out in the wilds. There's going to be freshwater nodes in lakes, in the interior continents, and then out in the ocean, we're going to have these giant fishing nodes for saltwater fish. There's going to be different fish in each kind. And one of the great things that came online in 3.0 is the crate system. And that is going to be leveraged fairly heavily as well, because when you catch these big fish, they don't go in your pocket, they actually go on your back. Yes. And it's cool. And you get to, I love the crate system. That's actually a fun thing as part of this project as well.
Well, can we first start talking? Can we talk a little bit about the profession of sport fishing? So I know there are folks who are curious if it is going to share the same skill tree as fishing and how that is going to work.
Yes. So I've also planned for a long-term fishing skill tree, talent tree, however you want to, whatever you want to call it. There's going to be one of those. I've already reserved power within the sport fishing system for that. Right now, it's being baked into the sport fishing power stat, but we'll pull out of that and put it into the talent trees. And there's also a couple other little fun stats in there, chance to get your lures back. But I can take you through a walk through the system. You are going to go to one of these big sport fishing nodes. You're going to notice it because there's going to be birds flying around. There's going to be lots of fish, and you're going to be able to chuck some chum in the water. And when you chum the water, the node goes active, and everybody in the area can now fish from that. And then you're going to.
And when you are referring to node, because we've had nodes be settlements, can you be more clear about that? So this is why we changed settlements because node means a lot of different things, and usually in code it means different things.
Margaret, your mic is it's a little clippy.
Oh, okay, sorry. I will just see if I can fix that.
Yeah, so node here, we're talking about resource node, obviously, right? And this is a resource node as it pertains specifically to sport fishing, right? Not the AFK fishing per se. So you're chumming the water essentially to make sure that that resource node becomes active.
And then you're going to have a fishing pole as you presumably have one equipped. You're also getting a new lure slot in the next update, and there will be a lure progression system. So there will be fairly easy, cheap lures to craft, but that means that you won't have access to the full suite of fish that can come from that node. And they will do less damage. There will be more medium ones that halfway down, and it's going to follow the same progression of the apprentice, journeyman, master, grandmaster. And those lures, as you get down to the more expensive ones, will open up chances for the larger size fish, as well as the more gold selling for fish.
And let's talk a little bit about, Blair, a little bit about the dichotomy in sport fishing, right? Because you have sport fishing that exists out in the open seas, which we know falls under the umbrella of lawless territory that players can essentially incur this PVX risk associated with it. But then we also are going to be introducing freshwater sport fishing as well, which may not have as high a return as the greater risk of being in the open seas, may not require as good of lures or as good of a fishing pole per se, but players will be able to sport fish within the freshwaters that are under the umbrella of a lawful territory area and the flagging system, and be able to move those throughout the world as well.
Absolutely. So there's basically, what are you up for tonight? How much time do you have? Do you want to go out on Steven's cool the Corsair / cargo skiff / sloop? We're still playing with the name of the ship that we're showing here. It ended up more looking like a Corsair, and it was it's a fun ship. It looks good. It plays cool. We've already used it in our first sport fishing playtest. Everyone's super excited about it. And you go out on the open seas, you find the nodes. It's riskier. You have a couple fish holds on that ship that you can put the fish in, so you can carry more than just what's on your back. And then you take it back to the harbor and you sell your fish and you make good money. Or you come back to your ship and there are pirates. And you have to fend off the pirates. This was one of my experiences in Arcade. I went out swimming to pick up a fish. I came back and there were 3 dudes on my boat, and they instantly kicked me, took my fish, sailed my boat away, burned my boat. I was sad, but that will be one of the experiences that could happen.
So the Corsair side of this is the addition to the Navy, essentially, right? It accommodates the space you were talking about earlier, where we want to have a separate class of vessel that's going to accommodate some of these additional attachments. And really, as we approach our naval system, these ship classes are really just a template for attachment types, which are how the class is determined for the ship, right? Certain types of attachment points on certain ships will have available attachment types that can be placed on them. In the Corsair's example, you can use, different weapon attachments in these slots, Or you can use, in some of the concept art you're seeing now, you can use a fish hold essentially, right? Which is, Blair, as you described, that combat mechanic where you're sport fishing, you're deteriorating health of the target fish, and then when you successfully deteriorate that to the point where it's nothing, you can go acquire the crate on your back and bring it back to the ship and store that within this attachment. Talk to us a little bit about other attachments that we're working on for the Corsair as well.
So what's funny is you jumped over. I hadn't gotten to the mini game yet. You kind of leaped.
Oh, my bad. Oh, go for the mini game. Do mini game first. I'm sorry. I'm not following the run of the show. I apologize.
I was just like, hey, wait a second. Did I say that? Okay. So,
Before we get too far along, I want to acknowledge chat that came up with the Blair Fish Project.
Yeah, I like that. That's
I don't
good.
know how we've avoided that one this long, but appreciate it, chat.
oh boy.
It is now going to be that internally.
So you get your ship and you go out with your buds or not, and you chum the node. It's now active. It'll stay active for some period of time, 45 minutes or an hour, whatever we tune it to. You cast your rod in the water based on the quality of lure that you're using. Again, through that progression is how fast you will potentially hook a fish. And then you'll play a mini game. And it's, for those of you who have played a similar game before, the fish goes left, you move your rod left. The fish goes right, you move your rod right. And you're basically wearing the fish down to the point that ultimately he turns into an NPC corp, because that's the mechanic that we have. And you swim out to it, you put them on your back, and now you've got your trade pack slot consumed. Now, in the future, our Navy will probably have a fishing boat that will have more than 2 potential cargo slots for fish. But for now, we've got 2. We're building the tech. There will be even more cool things like hooks and things for the really big fish, because there's multiple sizes of the fish, the small, medium, and large. And the smaller the fish is, the easier it is to catch, but presumably you have less fishing skill at that point. And if you need more fishing skill, do some AFK fishing while you make a sandwich or clean the house or do whatever, right? And that will just happen. We're not going to change that. People like to AFK fish, but this is the more, I'm ready to play tonight and I want to fish. Let's go fishing, honey.
And you'll be able to see what kind of fish someone has, right? Because like we have some images of this. I don't know if Kyle can switch to one of them, but like the fish are actually on the backpack thing. It looks so cute. I love it.
And I told Chris Atkins, our lead character, I was like, make them comically large, because he made them big, and I'm like, that's not quite comical. Like, it needs to be big. And you're like, yeah, I have this.
It depends. It should depend on the fish. Like, if that's the actual size of the fish, it should be that big.
Well, you have 3 sizes. Remember, there's the small tuna, medium tuna, and the gargantuan, which is your comically large one. In fact, we're showing right now.
Yeah, there's the different sizes right there.
Yep, there's your 3 sizes of the marlin, and there's also, they're worth different amounts based on the type of fish. So to answer Stephen's questions, earlier question about getting back to the Navy and component slots, we are developing the Navy at the same time. I have a plan for all the hulls we need to create to launch the game, and the component slots is all of the unique fun stuff. So the Corsair will get a harpoon on the front that's unique to the Corsair, and you can fire essentially snare drag bags that stick to a player's ship, and those drag bags will create drag on that ship and it will slow it down. So the more you attach, just think of the movie Jaws, right? The more barrels you put on the shark, the slower, and it can't go down. On other ships, it will slow them down.
So this is not a rope that's rooted to the ship that's firing it. This is a projectile that has a drag bag on it, and when it impacts the enemy ship, that bag essentially drags the water as the ship moves, decreasing its speed. And you can have multiple bags that have hit up to a stack count, obviously, on a target ship, and then players will be able to respond to that on the enemy ship by interacting with the bag location and removing it from the vessel.
It's like a harpoon. What do you call it?
Drag bag.
Like
I like
water
drag
balloon.
bag. Yeah, exactly.
So an aquatic parachute.
Yeah, parachute. That was what I was thinking. Hot air balloon parachute.
But this ship was totally cool to build. We started with a gray box, and then we really focused on how players get on and off of these. Our lead gameplay just finished ladders last night. So if a ship's going by, you can have to interact and latch onto the ladder and then climb up the ladder.
Pirate the ship. Yes.
Yeah, there's all kinds.
So hard to get on them from the water right now.
Yeah, our current the caravel really wasn't designed for ease of use. We're going to make a pass on that one as well, because now we have our guidelines for how do we get on these ships, right? There's always going to be rear ways to get on it, and then there's always going to be some type of ladder or cargo nets near the front on the bigger ships that you can latch onto. And I say you hang on there like a tick. You just hit when you're on like a tick. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming with sport fishing, because it's also the intro to our future Navy and the future ships and fun components. Like Steven's like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if the harpoon also could heal other ships? If you could swap it out with a different type of harpoon unique to the Corsair. So when you think of our different ships, think of them as different, basically classes, right? This is going to be the light, quick fighter. This is just like a small gunboat that has one potential gun on it and a mast and a steering wheel, and that's it. And then we're going to go up to the even bigger ones, and they will be limited to how many players you can put on there by their buoyancy stat before you actually slow and scuttle the vessel. So don't put too many people on there.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We talked a little bit about the kind of sonar component as well, right? And that's going to add a new dynamic to traveling in the open seas, right? To engaging with these types of fishing resource nodes, to transiting crates to different harbors for turn-ins. Now you're going to have an element that extends the kind of replication distance for other vessels and or other resource nodes for these fish locations in a visible manner to the captain that is manning the ship, essentially steering the ship. They will see on their mini map, if they have this component attached, they will see kind of a regular ping that's going out and updating locations for other ships within that 1,500 meter range, and then alternatively seeing seeing the fish within 1,500 meter range. And I think is it 750 meters or 1,000 meters for the enemy ships? I'm not sure, or just other ships.
Right now, the radar 1,000 and 1,500 were the two ranges. The sextant is the 700. This is the shorter one. Once we get to more advanced components that do slightly different things, because again, we want to make the component choice interesting to customizing your ship, right? So we're going to give you components that do slightly different things, maybe a cheaper one, because you're always losing ships and you want to just throw something on there to fill the slot. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's great that we're getting to the point where we're adding all of this, the more sandboxy game loops that can just exist by themselves for someone who just likes fishing, right? And if you just like printing money, right, then go sport fishing, because this is a way of creating new money into the economy is by sport fishing. But
and I think that component the scanning component we were talking about is the radar arrays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I think the last one that we wanted to talk about was the sail variants, and I don't know if you want to go into how those will function.
Did you say the sail variants?
Yeah, the sail variants, the different sails that folks can have.
Are we delivering on sales for November? I didn't think we were.
No.
It was on the list, but maybe we're not.
No,
Okay.
we're not. No, there won't be. So obviously, long term, we do intend to have a lot of components that go into, very similar to how you have caravan components that, apply different stat values and or abilities to your caravan. The ship vehicles obviously will have a similar paradigm, and there will be components like sails, like rudder, like figurehead. Blair and the team are part of defining what that is going forward. It's not going to be in the November deliverable. Everything we're talking about here with the new ship class, with the fishing, the sport fishing on freshwater and open seas, the rods, the lures, the chumming, the new ship class and the radar component, the harpoon, and the fish storage, those are all coming in November. But there's obviously, the system will not be done. It's not going to be fleshed out. There's a lot more that goes into building it, including additional ship classes, additional components that is going to be much further beyond November. But we're standing up the base functional loop here with introducing now sport fishing in this additional Corsair class.
Yeah, and it's been the effort of I want to say 8 different teams. So it's definitely a studio-wide effort, and it's great to kind of. We just had our first playtest this week, and it went swimmingly. You know what happens when 8 different teams just dump stuff into and it's like, oh, that doesn't work, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. But it's great because you can actually see the vision starting to firm up there, and I'm really looking forward to getting this as a fishing. It's like MMO DNA, right? You got to have it, and even better because when you have a game like sports fishing, because a lot of MMOs just don't go the extra step to go beyond their base fishing model. So I'm really excited about that as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Blair, for diving into that with us. We appreciate it, to give us some more puns in it. We are going to talk about some other things that are a little bit more hot topics. So we hope that you enjoyed this relaxing fish talk. And we're going to let Blair take a little moment, and we'll be right back with the rest of us to go into.
Book you all later.
Thank you, Blair.
Thanks, Blair.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are going to be going over community feedback. There's been a lot of it. We have done a plethora of reports on the community side for development, daily reports, weekly reports, specific reports on various different topics. I know the QA team themselves has also done a ton of bug reporting and providing all of that information to the development team. But we understand that there are some folks curious about certain topics or certain systems, and we want to kind of cover those concerns here so that you know that, like, hey, we hear you, we understand that those things are concerns for you guys, but we're not concerned because we have solutions, we have plans that we're putting into play, and we kind of want to bring you into this. A lot of these we've talked about through, Stephen has mentioned these things in Discord to folks, but we want to give it a little bit more amplification because not everyone is following along at every little thing that a developer states in those channels. So the first
Discord,
topic, go ahead.
Discord or in Reddit, just to be clear, obviously in between meetings or when I'm, laying in bed at middle of the night, reading through Discord or stuff, I'll comment, I'll engage with the community there. Obviously that is not something that is extensible outside of those platforms. I try to rely on our community content creators, on individuals who, go on X and might, post summaries. I've seen a lot of different Ashes moments and, people who post things on Reddit so that it gives it a little bit of a more megaphone. But as Margaret said, we want to also incorporate some of these topics, even though we may have addressed them this last month or so, as part of the live stream, so it has a wider view and audience.
Yeah, and the community team also has replied to a lot of these threads or the discussion topics or whatever it may be as well. And same with our QA team. I know that a lot of them are in those bug threads, but we just want to give it a little bit more amplification. So the first segment here is going to be about settlements and war systems. So my first question is, can you clarify how settlement XP gain, resets, and level ups are currently working, and whether we'll see clear thresholds or contribution tracking in the future?
Yeah, so kind of two-part there. One, we did see some changes, obviously, with rollout phase 3. We added an entirely new settlement level to the game, and as part of that revamp and work that was done,
hold on, people are saying something's wrong with the audio.
How about my voice? Is my voice?
Yeah, they said it's both.
Like popcorn. Let me just in case. Fixed.
I wonder if it's on Twitch's
fixed.
side too.
They said good now. Okay, well, I'm good now. So either way,
should I redo the question, or did people hear the question?
Sure. Yeah, you can redo it.
I'll redo it just so we have the soundbite. Can you clarify how settlement XP gain, resets, and level ups are currently working, and whether we'll see clearer thresholds or contribution tracking in the future?
I'm sorry. Somebody in chat said Hector. That is so great. I love that. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to break this question down into two parts. The first part changes with the settlement experience and resets and level ups, but the second part, how do we track that? How do we showcase that from a UI perspective to the player? Obviously, first to obviously draw the point here about the debut of phase 3 on August 26th. There was a lot that was done to the underlying systems for settlement development, including adding an entirely new level to settlements, the town phase. And anytime you are making changes to a particular system, especially one as expansive, as large, as intricate as the node system, I mean, that is probably our most intricate system that we have in the game. Arguably, it is going to incur the potential for bugs to manifest, for issues that need to be solved. So I would say, that's normal. That should be expected. The settlement system is something that we are continuing to refine. You see this new development for content and systems moving forward, as we showcased here so far on the stream. That doesn't mean that teams are not dedicated to fixing the live environment and what is currently implemented. That is always going to be a balance that we have to maintain, right? Because in a sense, this live testing experience is a live service to a degree, right? It's a live service that has the express understanding that there's going to be bugs, that there's going to not be polished, that there's going to be issues we need to address. But as a result, we have to bifurcate the team to a degree to address those issues on live, while also considering the forward momentum and perspective on our milestone goals for content development and new system development, right? Because we have a lot of features that we're intending to launch with Ashes of Creation. So can I clarify how settlement experience gains, resets work, right? Obviously, as players do things in the world that gains them experience, they're contributing that experience to settlements. Now, we experienced a few bugs early on that have now, for the most part, been addressed with regards to experience getting reset, persistence having some issues within the database for settlement experience that was gained, related specifically to either server workers dropping, the node service getting inundated with traffic, and having some failures that resulted in those node experiences getting lost. We have since addressed a majority of those issues. Settlements should now be, I'm sorry, that's going to be difficult. But settlements have now been collecting the proper experience. However, as a result of some of the underlying system getting adjusted through working towards phase 3, there were also some hooks to the data from a UI perspective that wasn't displaying proper experience gained as well. So it was kind of a twofer. There were underlying issues with the service and nodes collecting that experience, and there was also a display issue happening on the UI side. Now, as I understand it, there's still some outstanding work for the bugs that relates to the UI, and UI is working on around that. That might be included in the 0.16 release that's going to be coming up next week. Some fixes for that, but just, make sure that you're helping people to understand this isn't a game yet. This is still a testing phase. We are still actively developing. And when you add to the development pot, the stew of development, sometimes tastes need to be refined. Sometimes bugs, can be found that need to be adjusted. So as long as we all have and share that expectation, I think there's going to be a lot more understanding.
Yeah, I would just say, like, we always err on the side of putting things in front of players earlier rather than later.
Yes.
And we know that there's there's gaps in our feedback, and that's always good. And the UI UX, and those are always things that are going to be iterated upon endlessly as we're going through the different phases of testing, and even into a real released live game environment. Like those jobs are never done.
Yeah, and I see a question from Glowies. Why are you going to market your tests then? That's a great question. Why are we going to market the test? Because the more testers we have that are participating, the more feedback we get, the more bugs that we find, the more opportunity for iteration that we get. And we feel that the product or the test environment is now in a place where players can see, even if they're unengaged, even if they're not, haven't been following the project for the last 7 years, there is an opportunity for them to see what the long-term intent and pictures and goals are for this project, and to have a voice in that process as well. This is also something that we get to use to litmus test some of these systems, not within the, I don't want to call it necessarily, not within the core golden cohort, right? You guys who are on this stream right now, the 2,500 people who are watching, the 50, 60, 70,000 people who will watch this Twitch recording and or live stream on YouTube, you're a very core audience. You are very invested. You like this game. You are sold on kind of what we're trying to achieve. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, right? Now, the question is, how does that translate to the lesser engaged audience? We want to get that information sooner rather than later, because they are also an important part of ensuring the game's success. And we need to make sure that their voice is represented. And there's only one way that you can reach those individuals, and that's through some amount of marketing. We feel that we have done as much as we can from a grassroots perspective to attract the golden cohort that we have, and we've done a great job at that. Don't get me wrong. Like, from a project in development, there are very few that have this level of visibility and engagement at this stage, and historically has had at this stage. But now there is an opportunity
there are
for
products
us
that
to
are
expand
fully
that.
complete who don't have that.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Correct.
This will be the first time that we're putting those like ad spends out and things like that. Like Steven said, it has been very grassroots. We have built this community through engagement with you guys, through hopefully you're feeling like you're seeing the progression of Ashes of Creation. I know, talking to some of you guys who have been here for such a long time, have felt that way and seen it and are excited to see it continue to grow and our team continue to grow. And I think it's going to be exciting to see more players actually get to see the product and know about us. There's tons of people who don't even know what Ashes of Creation is, and that is why we're going to be marketing. So like the marketing aspect of it is more that outreach, that getting more eyes on Ashes of Creation so that people can see like what we're working on, and then we can get that feedback from those users as well.
Absolutely.
Did you answer the part about whether we'll see clearer thresholds or contribution tracking in the future?
Yeah, I will say that, from a UI and UX perspective, as we develop what that visual feedback looks like to the player, we will perhaps get a little bit more granular, showing, specific experience values that the node progression requires. But that comes later when we do a more refining polish pass on the UI that's actually representing these systems.
All right, next one is, we only got through one. Are there any improvements planned for settlement war warnings and guard behavior, especially during early aggression or conflict triggers?
Yeah. So talking about the importance of feedback,
yeah.
I think that we all saw the importance of that feedback a couple of weeks ago, when now in the new phase, as certain player groups got to the point where they were engaging in node wars, we saw, hey, some of these features that we deprioritized as not being MVP required to stand up the base functionality of this particular system now has risen to the point by the community where it is really desired, and we need to implement this sooner rather than later. So of course, myself and Bill and the other directors, having the power that we do within the development scene, we can take that feedback and we can make some disruptive actions and choices. And that's what we decided to do with regards to this particular feedback. So as a result, you'll be seeing in the 0.16 update that's coming next week, there being new alignment protocols for guards within nodes, so that when node sieges when node wars, gosh darn it, I'm so sorry.
Settlement wars.
War, I know. It's going to take at least 8 years. It was 8 years of it being nodes. It's going to take 8 years before it's fully settlements yet. So anyways, when the settlement wars get initiated, the guards will now be affiliated with the citizens, and they will defend only the citizens who are registered as participants within the node. They will also treat hostilely any adversarial party that comes within range. That's going to be a huge benefit that I think the community was asking us to prioritize sooner rather than later. So that's coming potentially next week. And then in addition to that, we are also incorporating, let me just see here. We are incorporating the warning. So there will be a warning phase ahead of the settlement war, so that players have time to prepare, to to stash their goods, to make it back to a warehouse or something, and be ready for it. And then additionally, we are adding a on login toast, so that if you were offline when this warning phase occurred, or you're not aware and you haven't logged in for a couple of days, and boom, you log in the middle of a settlement war, you will be notified via a toast that, hey, look out, you're in the middle of a settlement war, be concerned, post shit.
And then the next one here is PvP and corruption. How is the team approaching edge cases in the corruption system, like players using unstuck or death to avoid penalties? And will we see clearer rules and safeguards soon?
How is the team approaching edge cases in the corruption system? So we are aware of those edge cases, and we do have plans to address those edge cases. We have designs that are intended to address those edge cases, but there's also going to be a period of time where we reflect on, the feedback and how the system has been used, and we may make some iterative passes on the system as well. So how do we approach it? We approach it obviously through the same methodology that we do most feedback, which is you provide that feedback, community collects that feedback, they have a meeting with design and myself where we discuss that feedback and theory craft solutions, or whether or not it validates our intended solutions that we just haven't gotten around to yet. So a lot of these systems, as we know, are still unpolished, but also are missing core functionality features, right? That may not have been required or needed or identified as MVP for the base loop to be functional and for us to even collect this feedback or validate that future direction, going forward. I think that we have added some of that functionality in the past. I think it was like 4 months ago or 5 months ago that we added additional functionality to the corruption system. We will likely be prioritizing this in the next milestone, so not what's coming up in November, but what's coming in thereafter. Unstuck causing death to avoid penalties. We're not going to be changing that. We don't want unstuck to be used as a teleportation, backdoor teleportation. So we decided to make it a death. Now I don't know that necessarily backdoors avoids the penalties. Like, you're still taking the penalties. It's just you can incur that death at your own will. You might drop shit there. You might you lose the normal amount of experience that you're going to lose. But I wouldn't consider that necessarily a backdoor. When will we see clearer rules and safeguards? Corruption as a whole is something that is going to be continually refined as we move through phase 3. So you will see continual refinements of that as we continue moving forward.
All right, the next one is...
And just to be clear, I see over your gameplay saying it clears corruption when you unstuck. It doesn't clear corruption when you unstuck. What it does is it kills you, and killing you clears the corruption. So unstuck isn't necessarily the culprit for clearing the corruption. It causes a death, and when you die and incur that experience debt, you are losing a portion of that corruption. So
and
if
long
you
term,
have
that's not how we want unstuck to work also.
Correct. That's correct. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Next one is, are there plans to make flagging and corruption more transparent or auditable, so open world PvP feels fair but still risky?
I don't know exactly what that means, auditable. Like right now flagging and corruption are pretty transparent. It includes a UI treatment to the color of the nameplate. It includes a UI debuff box on the targeting plate or on your own personal HUD. It is very visible. I don't know what auditing it means. We're not gonna. I mean, you'll see it in your combat log per se, right? But you won't be able to access a history and see, oh, this person flagged here, then, and there, and also went corrupt.
I think it's also like the actions in which flag you for PvP also.
The actions that flag you for PvP.
Yeah, like there's some certain abilities that folks have had problems with, like the Bard abilities and things of that sort.
Yes, those are bugs.
Them, yeah.
Absolutely, and those are bugs, and I think we've addressed those bugs in the past few weeks on some of those specific edge cases. But I think the crux of this question is auditable. It's that word auditable. And I don't think we're going to be adding any type of auditable feature for the flagging system.
Gotcha. Moving on to artisanship and gear progression, is there anything being done to address the current gear valley where crafting feels unrewarding due to scarce drops, high cost, and missing recipes? It's a loaded one, sorry.
No, that's okay. So artisanship and gear progression. I will say that we have made some organizational changes within the team over the course of this last month, trying to bring together a little bit more of the systems design element, particularly as it relates to this question of progression and addressing those gear valleys. However, I will say this level of iteration is not a quick fix. You should not expect this to be done in a short amount of time. The economy is a very expansive system. It is, arguably compared to the settlement system, is the second most complex in the game, right? You're dealing with thousands of recipes, with hundreds of material types, hundreds of components, a lot of different, variables that inform pricing, reward tables. They're all dynamic in the world. It is any MMO econ designer's worst nightmare to develop an economy for this type of a game. Now, that hasn't deterred us to do that, right? Ultimately, that's at the crux of what makes this type of a game so exciting. All the nooks and crannies that you can find, the best ways to optimize the time you spend in this game, right? We want you to have access to that, sandbox of an economy design. Phase 3 was the first stab at doing a significant amount of revamp to that. Obviously, we missed the mark. And that's okay to say. We are going to be doubling back and focusing. I mean, 2 entire teams have wiped clean the slate of their milestone deliverable to focus on this economy issue. So we are very dedicated right now to taking stock, taking account, inspecting the data, and making the changes that are necessary to ensure that we land a positive update in this regard going forward. So, how are we addressing it? Well, we want to make sure that we're obviously breadcrumbing players through their initial experience, that kind of golden path experience. And that should include, some focus on, early level gear progression that isn't entirely predicated on crafting requirement. Crafting is how you make the best shit in the game. It will continue to be the guiding pillar of how the best shit in the game gets introduced. But we missed the mark on some of the recipes that were reauthored and adjusted, and some of the drop rates, resource spawn rates, and quantity requirements, as well as obviously the bugs that we've had with, unlocking certain crafting benches, tool access, and recipe requirements that were off a bit. So as I said, our focus now is to take stock of that, to understand the issue and address it with a comprehensive plan that leads to a November deliverable, which moves the economy in a forward, more positive intended direction.
Thanks. I know that was a lot, and hopefully everybody was following along. But if you have follow-up questions, we'll try our best to address those.
And I just want to add to this, look, at the end of the day, when you are opting in to participate in this development at this phase, you should be doing so, and should is a very operative word here. I am usually not a fan of the word should,
Or
but
just. He doesn't like either of those words.
I know. But what I would say is that the expectation, like level setting expectations, active development is going to incur unintended results. That is the byproduct of active development, and that's the reason for testing. That's why we test, right? Because as a design moves from paper to editor to a packaged build, each step of the way, there is an opportunity for bugs, misalignment, redesign requirements, not fun being had, whatever it is. It's an iterative process. It is a very creative and iterative process. Anybody that is sitting and thinking, man, this game has a busted ass economy, or these bugs aren't getting fixed, or whatever the deal may be, this is not the path for you as a gamer. Participating in development, that is perhaps not the path.
Yeah, come back when we're launched.
When the game is finished, because your expectations are to play a finished game, and that's cool. Like, that's the vast majority of gamers out there. That is a totally normal sentiment. But what we're doing is inviting people to participate at a stage where bugs are high, balance is broken, and shit is unfinished. We're saying that. We're telling you this. We're openly saying, hey, expect this. And if you come back and you say, man, I didn't expect that, well, then there's a problem. So we need to make sure that we have people that are helping us to echo that knowledge, that are helping us to tell others about that, because it is important.
Yeah, I would just chime in and say, Ashes, we have multiple vectors of progression across every scale of gaming, from the solo player through groups, through guilds, through settlement advancement. And so our efforts are really, always looking at that holistically and trying to balance all of that together. But it's a complicated problem that for any game, for any MMO, and we're constantly trying to push that needle forward. And there's a focused effort, like Steven said, on the design team to where we've brought a whole bunch of additional folks in to help move that needle for the game as it stands right now, and make sure that we're, again, as is always my focus, that we're set up for the future, because we know that we want a game to last, and so having all of this right is important, but also having it adjustable is important, and making sure that we have all of the knobs that we need in place, or is still part of the process. Like, we're not there yet. And so, we're just, as we're discovering new things, we're making new adjustments, we're discovering new tools and new levers that we need to also develop. And then I'll also echo back to, we talked about we are still looking for designers with economy experience, and so I'll echo that one again. That's a need that we have on the team. That we have an open position for, that we've had for a while, and we're still actively looking for. So if you know anybody, send them our way.
Yeah, we have a principal economy designer position up, so definitely send someone our way. Or even if they're not principal level, they can still apply. You never know what'll happen. So please send them our way. intrepidstudios.com/careers. Then I'm going to kind of skip forward to recipes and crafting stations. Yes, recipes and crafting stations. Because I think you covered the other question here already through your previous answer. Some recipes like Dew Thread, Sanctus Skulker, and Apprenticeship Leatherworker are still missing or mismatched. Is a broader recipe pass or reorganization in progress? Yes. And then additionally, will region-specific issues like crafting station gaps or professional bottlenecks be addressed to improve mid-tier progression? I think you touched on that already.
Yes, both of those I talked a little bit about. Like I said, 2 whole teams have now been dedicated to this milestone, to reflecting, taking stock, and addressing those issues. It's not going to come quick. It's going to come over a period of time, and the hope is that by November, we will have moved the economy in a direction that is far more positive than where it has been at the start of Phase 3 or 2.5.
And I know the community will kill me if I don't cover this one, which is gather rules and node rarity. When will we see static rarity gather rules be removed, and how is the team reworking them based on the community concerns? And then additionally, how is the team handling situations where rare node qualities exposed through visuals, pop-in behavior, or UI overlays before interaction?
So on the first point, the static rarity issue. So we did remove static rarity from a section of the harvestables back. I think it was in like phase 2, based on feedback then. What had happened was when we introduced the clustering, which was a unique feature for gatherables, that kind of created, these clustered areas. It used the old tech of predetermined rarity locations. That has now been brought up to the top of the attention of the economy engineering team. They will be addressing that hopefully within the next release, if not the release thereafter, where it will be random roll chance for clustering. So not everything has the current static rarities. It is really just the cluster node resources, I understand, that are placed that have that, and it is getting addressed currently. How is the team handling situations where where rare node quality is exposed through visuals? So that is actively being worked on. We raised that concern as a high severity bug. That is something that UI will be addressing. It got manifested when we introduced some additional interactable tech for multi-interact nodes. And as a result, there was a different piping used for some of the displays that should be addressed shortly. So we are on top of that as well.
And then moving on to Anvils and solo versus group gameplay. So the first one here is the Anvil zone has felt a little underwhelming sometimes to some players, missing recipes, fewer POIs, and broken progression loops. Are there improvements underway to bring it up to parity with the other regions? And I know we set that expectation when we came into it. We let people know Anvils will not be on the same level as Riverlands and so on. But folks are curious when it will be and when the issues that are currently affecting like the progression elements of it, like broken quest and recipes, will be resolved.
So the Anvil's glow up is not going to be part of this milestone, other than I think a couple of points of interest that might be targeted for November. It will be something that we are going to continue developing, right? Starter zones have a little bit more need than some of the other zones that we've been developing, right? We want to make sure that we're building outward from the starting experience with regards to content, POIs, and whatnot. We've taken a focus to introduce the story arc as we've gone through the description of this live stream for Sand Squall, June Dark, and Turquoise. And Anvils will get some additional attention come next milestone and the milestones thereafter. As Margaret said, we did obviously make very clear that the initial debut of the Anvils was not going to be on par with the Riverlands. It was going to be more on par with Sand Squall, June Dark, and Turquoise as it relates to the available content, pathing, and points of interest. But that's something that's going to be continually developed as we move forward.
And then the last one here is, given the grind-heavy artisanship system, is anything being done to better support gameplay in Anvils and reduce the feeling that solo gathering is the only viable path?
Yeah, I think that that relates to what I just basically said, which is that as we continue to develop the zone, those things will become more viable. Yeah.
Then the next, oh, go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, that doesn't mean that there's nothing happening like short term in the Anvils. We're constantly like evaluating even the base pop of the Anvils as it was a big test case for a bunch of new population techniques that we have internally and that we're looking to leverage. So we're still making a lot of development effort in there, even though you might not see it.
Awesome. And the last thing here is there's been a lot of discussion around exploiting or player behavior and actions done towards players. So really this is about player action and transparency in regards to that. And we just wanted to let folks know that we are planning to launch a new player actions webpage at some point in the future that will help provide a little bit more visibility into enforcement trends and community standards. But we aren't ready to share that yet, and we don't have a timeline that we're willing to share yet publicly. But we want you to know that that is something that is coming. It's going to be different. Not every company displays what actions have been taken on accounts, but that is something that we are going to shift and start doing. In the meantime, we are planning to maintain a knowledge base article with customer support, where we will update summaries of kind of a few different enforcement data points and let people know like what the recent actions have been. We aren't going to like share exact details, but it'll be like, the first two letters of an account type of thing with a bunch of asterisks and kind of what the actions were.
I do want to comment on this a little bit. So, this is another example where community feedback has come at us and we have heard you. And this is our ability to respond and say, look, we are making this change as a result of overwhelming response from the community that this is what you want. Previously, our policy was that we did not share account action details or any insight to account actions outside of, bespoke incidents where, we talk about what we've done. However, that is not what jives with the player base, and that's cool. Like, we're fine with that. So what we've done is we have, I've discussed this with Margaret, the community team, the CS team, as well as the web team. And we have now identified a scope for what that type of visibility will look like. However, it will take time for us to develop that. That is a highly integrated system that requires connections into the CS systems, that requires connections into the web page system, that requires connections into a lot of different systems and takes time to develop. So in lieu of that time, what we will do is we will stand up a knowledge base article, as Margaret described, that will be regularly updated on some cadence that we determine, internally for.
Internally, I could share that what we're planning.
That's cool. Go ahead. Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
On Mondays, we'll be updating it as our plan.
Yep. And so that will not contain, full account names or people's names or any personal identifying information. What it will contain, however, is, one or two letters of a particular account action, some minimal detail of what account action was taken and for a general reason of why and duration, right? And that will be now something that you can see. Now, to be fair, there has been a lot of, and I'm just going to say this, bullshit conjecture by, different individuals for whatever reason who state that we don't take action against individuals. That is not true. We have issued literally thousands of account actions since the start of Alpha 2. Those come in the form of our normal account action progression, which is warnings, which is suspensions, which can be character deletions, which can be removal of items, depending on how that individual or account has engaged with some rule-breaking condition. The CS team is completely bifurcated. We have, directors at this company that have purview over their departments, run those departments. I have no personal relationships with any particular guild or individuals in the game, certainly none that I would use to favorite any individuals. I have said this. People can either take me at that word or not. That's cool. It's your prerogative. But that is the truth. And we will now implement this process to give you better visibility into what those types of actions are, because that is what, as a player base, you guys have asked for. And our job as a company is to deliver a product that you want. And that is part of the product. So this is a change that we'll be making. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and to remind people, if you see something that is suspicious, or you are experiencing something, or you see RMT, or you see anything that you think that a player is harassing you, anything that would be a player report, please put that to support. It's, support.ashesofcreation.com. Send that to us. We investigate everything. Even like people telling us like, oh, we think this guild is doing something suspicious, right? We are going to look in the logs. We've looked at like every purchase that they made, every trade that they made to each other. And if you don't see actions taken on it, it's probably because those people are legitimately doing those things fairly. They're, working really hard to get that gold, to trade that to their guild leader, to give that guild leader the thing that they need to do. So it is definitely something that we are taking seriously. And obviously from our perspective on the design side, we want to see when people are doing suspicious stuff, because we're like, how's that happening, right? But if you see an exploit, or if you experience an exploit, please /bug that. And there is a little exploit marker, mark that. You know, if you need to do it one more time just to get the repro steps for us, we understand. But when you're doing it like 50,000 times, you're no longer just doing it for the sake of you're trying to like test it, right? You are now changing the way that the structure of the system is going to work because you're changing the market or changing whatever it might be that you're, you know, doing it 50,000 times when it's, you know, it's not intended. So if there's something weird, definitely bug it for us. And like, if you think it's an exploit, mark it as an exploit. If you have a player that you think is doing something suspicious, send us a support ticket. If you have information like a video, attach that. If you have a screenshot, attach that. That is very helpful for us. And we're also doing some active, not just reactive work as well, where we're looking at data and taking action based on anomalies that are happening as well. But we dig into those things because there are sometimes false positives. So we want to make sure that we're working with the development team to go, hey, we're seeing this thing. Is it suspicious to you? Because it's suspicious to us. And then they can kind of dig into what actually was happening with that user and what was going on and whether it was actually an exploit or not. And sometimes we reach out to those users individually as well.
Now, I do want to make one last comment with regards to moderation and the community. We are still a small community. We're a large community from the perspective of a game in development, but from the perspective of a launched game of the magnitude and budget that we're creating Ashes of Creation with, we are still a relatively small community, right? We have 100-something thousand plus people that are in our Discord. You know, we have a great following on a lot of social media channels, and obviously the brand awareness is high up there from an MMORPG perspective. Although, you know, sometimes we get our fair share of negative, positive, or neutral commentary. That's cool. But I would say that what I saw over the course of the last few weeks in Discord, you know, or on Reddit or whatever, with regards to the unconstructive sentiment and feedback that we received, both targeting the development team, myself, the moderation team, or each other, was not acceptable. And we have enacted some changes in Discord in order to address that, including an arena of word channels for both the Shoal A2 users and the Lotharia A2 users to segregate that type of more robust conversations, we might call it. And we will now be using a heavier moderation hand when it comes to keeping discussion pertaining to the game, the testing environment, you know, specific features and or feedback that maintains constructiveness. I expect as a community that we reflect what it means to be an MMORPG gamer and an MMORPG community. We are building something here to stand the test of time, to take Sid Meier's words, that we want for this game. And part of that is being a good community, fostering that good community, and you are all a part of that dynamic. You are an ingredient to that truth. So there is a level of responsibility, obviously, on us as the developers, as the managers of the community, to ensure that that's the case. But there is also a level of responsibility for you as a participant, as our golden cohort, as our core audience, to make sure that you're helping us set the tone for future individuals who may join this community. So we expect this to be a partnership between you and us. We will take the feedback, we will enact on the feedback, we will make changes based off of that feedback, but maintain a level of civility, of respectfulness, both towards the development team, the moderation team, as well as other players, and do so in a way that ultimately will yield this successful outcome of Ashes of Creation, which is a game that we obviously all love and care about and want to see come to fruition.
Yeah, I think that that's great, Stephen. I constantly always tell folks that one of the things that is going to help the success of Ashes of Creation is we invite other people, right? There's someone who comes into the community, they ask a question, and if you just troll them instead of giving them a genuine answer and helping them, that's the first experience that they may have with us as a community. And I think like it's not just on us as developers, it's us on as like testers and players to also share that sentiment with those users and kind of guide them, right? Give them the direction that they need if they're asking a question, instead of trolling them about that thing. So it is It is a big responsibility on all of us. And when it comes to the rules for those new channels, there is some age restriction to that, as well as we are still going to apply all the other rules to it. It is just that Rule 6 is going to be a little bit more lax. But obviously, if it gets into like personal harassment or doxing or anything like that, we will still be taking action on those accounts.
And I just want to make sure that the audience and that is receiving this message that I just gave, it is particularly important to hear if you are a leader in the community. That means if you're a content creator voice, if you're a guild leader, if you're, a shot caller, if you are the top dog in crate, transiting, if you're the go-to person for, fishing, whatever it is, right? You've made a name and a reputation for yourself in the community. You're a leader in the community. I expect you to help me participate in refining this community to a more inviting, welcoming, constructive environment.
All right. And with that, I know we've had a bit of a heavy heart with that one. I think all of us care a lot about Ashes of Creation. We care about the success of it. We care about the development of it. And it hurts the most whenever we hear people say that we don't. So we are taking everything that you guys have, shared with us into effect. There's a lot of bug fixing happening. And I know that these were just some of the top topics. We'd be here all day if I went over everything. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys got the insight into like the development work that goes into some of these pieces that are not quick changes. Like Bill and Stephen has said, some of these are massive systems that are not completely finished, that, balance is not going to be quite there right now. And you will see bugs, but we are working towards fixing those, and we hear your concerns about them. We don't have time for Q&A because we have a big leadership meeting happening at 1 p.m. Pacific our time. So I am going to have to wrap this up. But with our outro, I know one of the big questions here has been continually people asking about wipes and stuff like that. We aren't planning to do any wipes right now. Don't worry, just keep playing. We have a lot of work that we're working towards, and you will see that happen on PTR. We may do wipes, but not on
greetings and or salutations.
Alpha 2 environments for now. And with that, join us if you're interested in joining the Alpha 2 journey. Again, like Steven said, if you are looking for a final product, this is not for you. Come back when we're launched. Follow us on social. Come check out the live streams every once in a while. But if you are interested and you want to be part of the journey, you want to give feedback, you want to be in part of that early stage of creating Ashes of Creation, come join us. And be part of the development process, and head on over to forums.ashesofcreation.com to give us any feedback. We also have our Discord, all of our social platforms. We're Ashes of Creation everywhere. We would love for you to follow us. We're pretty active on all of those platforms, and we engage with everybody as much as we possibly can with the team that we have. Thank you very much to all of you for being here and watching this. I know these are quite long and lengthy. I appreciate the people who summarize them for people who can't sit here and watch a 2-hour-long stream. To Scott and Blair and Brian and Terrence, and of course, Bill and Stephen for your guys' time. I know it's very valuable. We have a lot to work on, and taking you away for this length of time is not ideal for development side, but for the player side, I'm sure you guys love the insight. Stay safe and healthy and have fun on Vera. We will be uploading this to YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, it will be available right when we end. And of course, leave a comment on our development update if you want to be potentially the spotlight comment, and make sure that you are a public subscriber so that we can see that you're subscribed. And with that, we will wrap up for our September development update. We'll see you guys all next month. Bye for some spooky
Thanks, everyone.
fun.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap. I hope you guys enjoyed that live stream. I really appreciate all you guys coming out today. This is probably the biggest audience I've had on YouTube. This is a special project that I've been looking forward to. Starting this journey, becoming a full-time content creator. This is the game that I pegged, and I want it to be the game.
Are THR summons all going to be the same color?
Yeah,
that should be changed.
Well, it sounds like that the higher they get in levels, that they're gonna change the look of the actual summon. That's what I got from what he said, because it doesn't look good, the fact they all look the same color. I will agree with that. So, but that's just the beginning of it. Obviously, it's gonna be different. But what I got from that video was that there's a tank version, a DPS version, and a support version. So, but he did clarify that there's going to be more different versions of those summons. So they all not going to look like that. That was very basic and generic. He did say that the summoner class is busted right now. Busted means in a good way or a bad way. I'm not 100% sure, but he said it is busted. So I'm assuming he means overpowered. I play summoner in just about every freaking MMO, every game that I play RPG. So this was a very special live stream for me. I'm very excited to see what they're doing with it. And I do like the various roles that you get to use being a summoner. But for most people, they don't like to use the summoner as a cross class. So you would be able to, I think he said up to 64 different classes you would be able to make in a game, because you'd be able to cross form these classes together with a second one, which is really nice, which is what they did in Lineage. You get to use some of the skills from the main class and subclass. But again, I want to thank you all, you guys, for coming today, man. This is appreciated. I stream the game just about every night for at least 2 hours, unless OBS is doing OBS things like the last few nights. I think I need to roll back my OBS, to older version. But to all of that, there's a lot of stuff that's been going on in the community that I didn't even know about. All the I guess it was probably political things and stuff like that. But yeah, but as far as the summoner piece, it was pretty good insight on what's going on. The Harbinger system, the fact that an event in the game can last months, that's incredible. I think that was very good to see that system in place. And then I do like fishing, but the fact that you can have sport fishing, another layer to the fishing tree, which I thought was a pretty good idea. I didn't even see that coming. So that's all good. So again, I live stream this game just about every night around, I would say probably close to 11 p.m. Pacific time, maybe sometimes 10:30, sometimes 10. It all depends on my co-op streams that I have, how long I take them, because I need a break in between those before I play Ashes. But just about every night at Ashes, you will see me up playing this on YouTube. So if you like Ashes, please follow. I will be playing this game for a very long time. And I got a guild that I play with now, so you hear a lot of their voices in the background and stuff like that. Sometimes I mute them so I could talk to you guys, because you guys can ask questions as well. I am level 18 right now. Could have hit like 19 last night, but couldn't stay on much longer. I would plan on hitting 19 today. And then once I hit 25, that'd be the combat portion of my character. Then I'm going to get more into crafting. And they just made the announcement, the best gear in the game is stuff that you can craft. So I need to learn that crafting system. And most MMOs, I don't craft at all, but I plan on crafting this one. So it'd be very low level live streams in the beginning. Oh man, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. Thank you, Kenny. It'll be very low level crafting in the beginning, because I'm learning a whole new system.
Thank you for subscribing, Kenny Newcomb.
And we'll work through that. And then once we get the crafting piece down, which will probably take a month, maybe longer, I'll start getting myself more into PvP. And then once the PvP is all situated, because I will redo my character again once the summoner comes out. We'll be getting to some diplomacy, see how that whole system works. But again, thank you for the follow, man. I really appreciate that. Let's grow this channel. I'm a very positive person. I just went full-time content creation, so any support on any of the things you guys can do for me, that'd be appreciated. Whether it's a super chat, whether it's subscribing to becoming a member of the channel, buying merch, coming over to Twitch sometimes, lurking in the streams, or, jiving with the community over there. For me to become a Twitch partner would be great. So I'm in this for the long haul. You can count on me. I have a lot of gas in the tank for many more years with MMOs. It's my favorite genre, but I also am a Nintendo live streamer as well. I do a Nintendo update every morning. And I play Nintendo games and Ashes of Creation. That's pretty much my gameplay loop. So, but thank you, everybody. I'll see y'all soon. See y'all in Vera later on tonight. And thank you for the biggest live stream I've had on YouTube so far. Let's keep this going. All right, that's all I got for now. See you soon. And I'm also on TikTok as well. Take care.
Of course, hell yeah, let's go. And I am also a SMN guy. I am so pumped it comes out on my birthday.
Oh, you're some of the guy too, man. And we'll be able to play with each other, man. Peace and take care, Eric. Yep.
Take care.
Thank you all, man. I really appreciate I really, really, really appreciate, man, you guys hanging out. Thank you. Thank you.